بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وبعد. We mentioned in the past session that whenever we make a decision, to make a decision according to the Sunnah method or according to the Sharia involves 3 steps. The first step is analyzing the situation for myself and looking for the benefits and the harms. The second step is to make mashwara and to ask and consult someone else before I do something. And the third step is to make istikhara and dua and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's guidance. These are the 3 steps I need to take before any decision that I make. Whether it's something as important as marriage or something seemingly as insignificant as what color should I paint my walls, or what do I do when I go for a particular travel. Whatever the question is, there's a particular method. We don't just go ahead and do it. 3 things we do. The first step is I analyze the situation, which I'm going to talk about more in a moment. The second is, after I've analyzed the situation, I speak to someone. I'll speak to my parents, I'll speak to my mentor, I'll speak to someone who's more qualified and get their thoughts on the issue. Because as a human being, I can only see so far. Sometimes somebody else can help me with my blind spots. You know, when you're driving and you have a blind spot, sometimes you have to turn completely to look for it. Or when you're parking in reverse, your rear view camera is showing you what you can't see. Sometimes mashwara really gives you that foresight, insight that you don't have yourself. There's a lot about mashwara we need to talk about. And the third part is to make istikhara and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once I've done these 3 steps, whatever decision I make, whether the outcome becomes positive for me or it may even be negative, in the end of the day, I know that I've spoken to Allah, I've gone through the method that Allah has prescribed, and there will be khair in it. So what's the first step in any decision-making process? It is to analyze what's the benefit, what's the harm from a Sharia perspective and from a worldly perspective. What does this mean? Sometimes we go to 2 extremes. When I'm looking at a particular opportunity to do something, I think to myself, okay, I'm going to do this. What's the worldly benefit for me? I'm working in a particular job, okay? Let's say I'm an employee, I work for X IT company, or I'm a medical professional in X facility. And now I can go ahead and get a new job in this random state, in this random country, and it's going to give me like thousands of dollars more. So now I look at this and I say, okay, should I do it or not? From the Islamic decision-making process, my first step is, what are the harms and benefits of this? Okay, the benefits are, okay, I get a better job, okay, I get a better living standard, okay, maybe I can now buy a house, I'm going to be more comfortable. But what are the harms? Okay, there's no Muslim community over there. Where I'm going to work, there's not that many Muslims, they're not too understanding about Islam. I may not have the same opportunities to pray salah, go for Jumu'ah. I may not be able to express myself as a Muslim as well as I would like to. I'm relocating with my entire family. There's no Islamic opportunities for education. These are all of the negatives. From an Islamic perspective, yes, my paycheck is going from a 5-figure salary to a 6-figure salary, but my deen is going from a 5-figure salary to a 0-figure salary. And now I need to ask myself, is that worth it or not? This is even before I make mashwara. Mashwara is a second step. A lot of times, we jump to mashwara right away. Before we even go to mashwara, if there is more harm than good, you don't go and make mashwara. Let's say, for instance, I look at this issue and I'm saying, okay, you know what? I want to relocate. I relocate to this random place, no Muslim families, no Muslim community, no masjid, no opportunity of Islamic education, nothing. And the place I'm going to work is not even that favorable towards Muslim. I'm going to relocate with my 3-4 kids. I'm going to get a better job. Everything is going to be nice and hunky-dory. That's what I think. But then my children are just going to assimilate, acclimate, no hifz program, no qaida program, no after Islam program, no Jumu'ahs. I have to drive like 2-3 hours. My job is getting better, but at what expense? Now, I'm not going to go and go to my friend and say, oh, you know what? I want to do mashwara with you. There's all of these Islamic cons, but look, I'm getting paid better. Mashwara, you'll make it. Yes, you can still do mashwara if you want. Inshallah, somebody will give you some guidance. But mashwara you make after you've done your own research and you realize, okay, there's pros and cons, but the pros outweigh the cons. Let's say, for instance, I go there and I say, okay, maybe they don't have the most flourishing Muslim community, but there is a Muslim community. Maybe they don't have the greatest Islamic education, but they do have it, and I can supplement it this way, that way. So now there's pros and cons, then I go to the next step. Too often, we think very quickly and we're like, oh, there's a better job opportunity there. My child can get their education. This happens very frequently when the question of a child's education is at stake. I want to go and study at a university. The number of times I have people asking me this, I want to go there, there's no Muslims over there, there's no masjid nearby, and they're going to be in school all day, so they can't even pray, there's no Jumu'ah opportunities. But don't worry, they're just going to do their undergraduate, 4 years, but it's a very good school. Inshallah, they'll come back and then we'll do everything again. The amount of damage 4 years can do in an environment that is not favorable towards your faith is unimaginable. Sometimes, I mentioned this last time as well, sometimes you will see innocent kids who, as high schoolers, mashallah, they're the top of their MSAs, they're involved in the masjid, they're doing all of these things. Then all of a sudden, you don't see them for a year, you don't see them for 2 years, and then they just start slowly drifting because they don't have that environment. Nobody's looking for an environment as great as Medina Munawwara. We won't find that. But nobody's also telling us to throw ourselves in the deep end. So again, 3 parts to this whole system of decision making. Number 1, analyze, think, what is the benefit? Even dunyawi benefit as well. If you look at the dua of istikhara, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is asking Allah, Ya Allah, where there is khair fi dini wa ma'ashi. Even when Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is making istikhara, he's saying, Ya Allah, if there is goodness for my deen and my dunya. Sometimes we even go after dunya for the expense of the dunya. That I get a better job, but I have no family structure, I have to work extra hours, I have no vacation, it's really stressful for me, it's not something I enjoy. Even then, fi ma'ashi, Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is saying, when I do this, it has to be good for me, for my living, for my family. That's so beautiful. In Islam, we don't get rid of the Islamic component. We don't get rid of the mental, physical, worldly component as well. We don't want to get a job at the expense of being with our family, with the expense of my mental health, with the expense of my physical health. Somebody's like, okay, I'm going to work extra hours. I'm not going to be able to see my family, but I'm just going to do this for a few years. And inshallah, when I have enough money, we're going to retire early. Again, at what expense? So the first step is, I look at the benefits, fi dini wa ma'ashi, as Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says, what's good for my deen, my akhirah, also what is good for my dunya. Because whatever is good for my dunya will translate into my akhirah as well. And whatever is good for my akhirah will translate into my dunya as well. So yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us in this first step of decision making, and also the second 2 steps, which is mashwara and istikhara, which we'll talk about inshallah in the upcoming sessions. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us all. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to see what is in our best interest for the akhirah and the dunya in every decision that we make. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Jazakumullahu khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.